The entire history of human evolution now seems to be a certainty, and science continues to tell us that we come from monkeys. But do you really feel like a monkey? As we were saying, the fact that our ancestor is a monkey is now taken for granted, to the point that some famous museums have even recently opened large halls dedicated specifically to the history of human evolution. This video will be a bit longer than usual, because explaining the entire human evolution takes time. We will therefore try to focus on the most important things, and on those that do not add up in the official reconstruction. First of all, Charles Darwin's theory of evolution says, in a nutshell, that the evolution of a species occurs as a result of chance and necessity. The problem lies in understanding who or what chance is and what the necessities are. But before delving into the theory of evolution, let's see what discoveries have been made in the field of paleoanthropology. We don't mean to nitpick the archaeologists, but to date, only parts of 9 individuals of this species have been found. We repeat, parts, among which the most famous is an almost intact skull found in the Jurab Desert in Chad and affectionately called Toumai. Dated to about 7 million years ago, this fossil is considered part of the first hominid. What suggests it might be a hominid is the study of the foramen magnum of the skull, which is shifted forward, and would suggest the possibility that this hominid was bipedal. Although the forward position of the foramen magnum is a possible indication of bipedalism, we must say that other animals also have this feature, such as gibbons and other great apes, which, however, are not considered hominins nor bipedal. And to us, honestly, the poor Toumai seems like a kind of an extinct monkey rather than our ancestor. Of the Ororuntuganensis, which lived about 5.8 million years ago, around 20 parts were found, including fragments of femurs, teeth, mandibles, and arms and legs. In this case as well, it is hypothesized that the Ororuntuganensis could have supported an upright posture, based on morphometric analyses of the lower limbs. However, it's unfortunate that the anterior teeth are much more similar to those of a large anthropoid ape, and this too should be classified as an extinct species of ape, rather than a step in human evolution. In contrast, there have been 110 findings of parts from different individuals of Ardipithecus ramidus, the most famous of which, nicknamed Ardi, was discovered in Ethiopia. Unfortunately, its front limbs are as long as the hind limbs, and the joints are more similar to those of apes than to those of humans. But other things do not add up, such as the femoral angle, which according to anthropologists would allow for a certain degree of bipedalism. But we would like to point out that other apes, such as orangutans, also have a femoral angle that allows them to walk bipedally for short periods of time. Studies have shown that the femoral angle can vary based on the weight and structure of the subject, and can be caused by compressive stress on the cartilage. However, let's avoid going into these technical topics at length. Thus, this hominid can also be classified as an extinct species of ape. Certainly not a human. Things, however, change with the specimen nicknamed Lucy, dated to about 4 million years ago. This 14-year-old specimen was definitely bipedal, but not with a simian appearance as it is usually depicted, but with a facial structure much more similar to this, although the age is obviously not the same. In short, much more similar to the appearance of an Aboriginal person than to that of an ape. Other remains of Australopithecus afarensis are taller and more similar to us. Experts explain this by referring to sexual dimorphism. But let's move on. But let's return to the simian appearance that anthropologists are so fond of. We must say that through forensic practices and physical anthropology, the only methods available since the DNA of these ancestors has never been found, it is not possible to reconstruct the face starting from a skull. Or rather, it can be done, but the result is easily adaptable to one's expectations. Ultimately, the Australopithecus afarensis were humans, not animals. Maybe with a slightly wider pelvis and a more sloping forehead, but they had human traits, certainly not simian ones. And we could continue down this path to Homo denisovan, of whom only some teeth and bone fragments have been found. However, unlike the other hominins, this is the correct term to use instead of hominids, both mitochondrial and nuclear DNA have been found and sequenced, showing genetic characteristics similar to those of Tibetans living at high altitudes. But even with just DNA, it is not possible to reconstruct the features of an individual today, let alone determine the degree of hairiness. Imagine trying to do this from a single skull or parts of it. However, without DNA, we cannot have certainties because, hypothetically, they could be people affected by some variant of any deforming pathology. Or they could have been part of tribes that practiced body deformation. Or simply different ethnic groups, like the Neanderthals and indeed the Denisovans. In short, our hypotheses could be just like those made by science, and therefore cannot be mistaken for certainties. You see, the conclusion drawn from all this is that the reconstructions made are highly approximate and consequently falsifications, lies that we unfortunately still find in school books today. So, we could say that it is pure science fiction, a sci-fi horror movie worthy of 2001: A Space Odyssey, where the ape becomes self-aware. But now returning to the theory of evolution. If we were truly a mere product of evolution, and especially of chance, as Darwin says, there are questions that science is still unable to answer, such as, where do the various ethnicities come from? Where does individual consciousness, the ego sum, come from? Why has only one species become self-aware? Why have many species remained practically identical after millions of years? And we could ask many more similar questions, receiving as answers only hypotheses supported, perhaps, by sporadic reasoning which we honestly consider not very logical, as they are full of probabilistic statements. From our quick overview of what are still considered our ancestors today, what emerges for us is that monkeys have remained monkeys, even after 7 million years. Of course, they have also evolved, but no animal has ever made an evolutionary leap like humans. Maybe those who talk about evolution don't know the numbers. Our planet has an estimated biodiversity ranging from 4 to 100 million species, of which only about 1.5 million are currently known. How is it possible that a single species has made such a large evolutionary leap in such a short time, acquiring the ego sum? Our evolutionary friends surely know that there are 118 known elements in nature, and our body is made up of roughly 50 of them, which exponentially increases the combinatory possibilities to a tremendously large number. They know that our DNA consists of more than 3 billion pairs of nucleotides. Now, if nucleotides are 4, the combinatory possibilities amount to around 6 to the power of 3 billion, and only one of these is human. So, to say that we have been lucky is an understatement. In short, we could make several similar observations, and science surely provides answers to all these questions, such as those about ethnicities. Now, leaving aside the distances of thousands of kilometers, mountain ranges, seas, oceans, forests, deserts, wild beasts, different climatic areas that separated the 4 main ethnic groups of this planet, differentiated from each other by skin color, facial structure, height, eye color, hairiness, just to name a few apparent characteristics. It is hypothesized that these changes depended on the environment in which they lived. But of course, it's perfectly clear. The black ethnicity became dark-skinned due to the sunny environment. The red ethnicity became so because of life in the steppe. The Caucasian ethnicity became white due to northern climates, while the yellow ethnicity developed almond-shaped eyes because they were bothered by the sun. We are obviously joking, but the logic behind some scientific claims is often of this kind. And you really should start realizing it. To support the theory of evolution, including that of humans, some self-proclaimed science communicators identify the phylogeny as the irrefutable proof that we are related to monkeys. Honestly, from a purely scientific point of view, this is tantamount to blasphemy. And the reason is very simple. Molecular phylogenetics is merely a statistical calculation based on input provided by us, guided by a defined research direction, and on a DNA database representing only a small fraction of the entire biological diversity of this planet. But we don't want to bore you with overly complex topics. Just consider that the genetic compatibility between humans and the bonobo species was estimated to be nearly 99% in the 1990s. Today, according to new studies, this compatibility is estimated to be around 93%. Thus, we have become more similar to gorillas, with whom for now, according to science, we share 94% of the coding DNA. The term coding, in fact, refers to that small part of DNA, less than 2%, which, put simply, encodes the characteristics of our body, such as eye color, hair color, height, physique, etc. In scientific terms, it is the portion that contains instructions for protein synthesis. And what about the rest? Obviously, different comparative methodologies lead to different results. Those that show such high compatibility are methods that discard entire parts of the DNA or consider other parts as less important. In short, such comparisons are often made without understanding the true significance of those DNA segments. In fact, what is called junk DNA, or non-coding DNA by science, is not really junk. And science has been realizing this only in recent years. Furthermore, the fact that Charles Darwin, the father of the theory of evolution, states that chance is the main driver of evolutionary changes, says everything about the credibility of such a theory. Biologists, physicists, mathematicians are constantly dealing with laws imposed throughout the universe that are beyond our power to alter. Everything, in fact, is regulated by laws. Yet, such individuals endorse a theory like evolution, which speaks of chance, opportunity, natural selection. Are these scientific laws? Do they perhaps encounter these in any chemical process, or in any physical experiment, or in any mathematical calculation? Definitely not. In fact, it should be the scientific community itself that takes a step back, to then take 4 steps forward. Obviously, we do not doubt that evolutionary processes exist, But they are minimal changes that follow precise rules that we still do not fully understand. They are still stimulations that come from outside the planet and from within it, and they certainly do not happen by chance. Here Darwin was indeed right about one thing. Evolution can be the result of external stimulations. Too bad he got the type of stimulation wrong. Humans did not evolve from monkeys. Rather, as confirmed by the latest scientific research, the evolution of humans and monkeys runs on two different tracks. However, contrary to what science still claims, that these tracks converge on a common ancestor, we say that this is not the case. The ancestors of humans and monkeys are similar, but not identical. Just as the processes that drove the evolution of monkeys that are very different from those that drove the evolution of humans. So then, where does man come from? The history of humanity on this earth begins approximately 700 million years ago, when there was a single continent called Pangaea, and surrounded by the vast ocean. Moving forward in large steps, oxygen began to develop, and the first protozoa appeared. Over millennia, these early life forms evolved spontaneously to adapt to the ever-changing environment, and the first multicellular algae appeared in the seas. Then, at around 600 million years ago, the first lower animals, such as sponges, jellyfish, corals, etc., appeared. Millennia pass, and around 350 million years ago, the first armored fish appear. And emerged lands begin to be covered in vegetation and dense forests. Ancestors of insects also appeared during this time, obviously gigantic. At around 180 million years ago, the first terrestrial animals, the reptiles, appeared and began to colonize the entire emerged continent. Everything adapted to the gravity and low vibrational frequency of that time. So the size of reptiles increased along with the surrounding vegetation. Until about 100 million years ago, the frequency of the planet's matter increased by a significant 35%, favoring the appearance of marine animals, such as the ancestors of the orca and dolphin. And God said,
"Let us make mankind in our image, after our likeness, so they may rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the sky, over the livestock, and over all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground."
And here come into play the light beings, the Elohim, who followed this evolution trying to identify the most suitable animal with pronounced intellectual qualities to graft our individual spirit, the ego-sum. They identified it in what will be called the golden feathered serpent. Thus, the cosmic genists landed from the three constellations of the eagle, the bull, and the lion, treated this aquatic dinosaur, a mammal of about 6-7 meters, with interventions at the coccyx and pituitary gland, and then awaited its development over time. It lost its scales, assumed an upright position, thus becoming in their image. They duplicated its sexuality so that it could transmit its genetics more quickly and improve them over time through mating. At this point, the primate was coupled with the soul, thus given the ability to possess individual intelligence with the subsequent grafting of the spirit, the eternal and immortal self. The man thus created began his evolutionary journey, and after reproducing in a protected area now known as Sicily, was transported to 4 different climatic zones to continue his reproductive, evolutionary path autonomously. Unfortunately, at about 65 million years ago, what has been termed the original sin occurred, perpetrated by the surviving inhabitants of a now disappeared planet called Malona, orbiting between Mars and Jupiter and governed by the Archangel Lucifer. But that's not the topic of this video. So, if you're curious, let us know in the comments below. So, at about 5 million years ago, to complete earthly evolution and set it back on the right track, the cosmic genists landed 4 colonies of different alien races called archetypes in the 4 zones of the planet. Through mating, they infused their values into the new human. These are the 4 races. The red race from the Pleiades, the yellow race from Orion, the bronze race from Procyon, and the white race from Alpha Centauri. Each of the 4 races carried different values that they wanted to transfer to the new humans, who over millennia and through interbreeding would create the terrestrial cosmic human. And here is revealed the truth about how the human race of this planet was formed, which is certainly more logical and possible than the impossible evolutionary one. Let's avoid talking about the Lemurian and Atlantean civilizations and their sudden disappearance. Suffice it to understand that after such cataclysms, like the fall to Earth of one of our 3 satellites, human civilization struggled to recover, facing extinction. So, yes, logic, mathematics, biology, physics, and historical evidence should lead to a creationist cause, rather than to a mathematically and biologically impossible, unique in its kind, and purely random evolutionary cause. It's a pity that science hasn't understood it yet. But it will soon, because sensational discoveries will be made in the coming years, and we are sure they will revolutionize the entire scientific landscape. If you want to learn more, read the full article on our website. You'll discover evidence of coexistence between humans and dinosaurs, and many other important revelations about our cosmic nature. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you don't miss out on all the updates about the latest revealed truths.